Good morning. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
All right. So thanks for coming to If You Build It, Will They Buy? The role of the FleetTech partner in the future mobility ecosystem. So let me ask, how many of you know what a FleetTech partner is, by a show of hands? Okay, I got 5. That's great. Hopefully I'll get a few more at the end. So let me just walk through a few things. I thought I'd kick it off with a little video for you. So let me ask, anyone know who this is? Okay, that's about the response I expected. What about this person? Who is this? Go ahead. Steve Jobs. I should ask, is there anybody who doesn't know who this is? So this is Mike Markula. He was the mentor to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. He was the person behind the person, and he invested the original $250,000, but we didn't know him. Think about it for a minute. We all know who the person is, we all know who the company is, we all know the success story, but so many times we don't know who was the mentor behind the success, who was the funding behind the success, who was the tech enabler behind the success. And that's what I want to talk about today, because all of you are building and making really, really cool things. So who are you? You're inventors, you're entrepreneurs, you're thinkers, you're changing the world, society, you're changing the way we're going to live now and in the future. You know, and who are you to us? We think you're the next great success. We just want to be the company building an ecosystem behind that. We want to be your sponsor. So, you know, when I got here, as soon as the doors opened this morning, I've been just going around just trying to meet more and more people to find out if you have products, if you have things that want to come to market, we want to take them there. So a little bit about us. We're a fleet management company. Now, this morning, I've had, as many times as I've said I'm with a fleet management company, I've then had to explain what a fleet management company is. So if you're going down the highway and you see any type of vehicle that's got a logo on it, it's probably part of a fleet, whether that's an Amazon fleet, a FedEx fleet, or Joe and Sons Plumbing. Those are fleets. We manage those fleets. We lease the vehicles to them and then all the services. And we do that all on a technology platform. So when we kind of look at where is this going? Where is fleet going? When we sit down with our clients, we talk about 4 things: multimodal, connected, intelligent, and efficient. That these 4 forces are fundamentally changing how fleets are managed for commercial clients. Now, we kind of wrap ourselves around that client as that FleetTech partner so that fleet manager, that fleet management team, depending on the size of the fleet, doesn't have to go figure it all out themselves. It's our job to come to them and say, here's all the different kinds of fuel. Here's all the different kinds of vehicles. Here's the vehicles you should be in. You aren't even in the right vehicles for the applications that you have. So we work with them to understand what's best for them. And what we've been talking to our clients about is over the last 5, 6, 7 years, there's been an evolution going on. Over the last 5 years, there's been more changes in the commercial fleet space than there probably have been in the previous 20 years. But when we look out the next 5 years, the evolution is going to turn into a revolution. There's going to be more changes in the next 1, 2, 3 years than there were in the previous 5. So this is an ecosystem that we're building out. You see everywhere from OEMs, you see banks. We work with a number of banks. You see technology providers. And by the way, if you at any point want to talk about what your company does, we'd love to. We continually probing for more people to join our ecosystem. So in the connected space, and as I went around, I think I've tried to talk to almost every booth here today at some point. I'll probably talk to about a third of them right now, and I plan on getting to all of them. But a lot of discussion on connected vehicles, tremendous amount. When we look at this, it's really the first step to autonomous. But the amount of data that is in a car, there's over 400 different data points in a car built today in 2019, and that has over 140 business applications. So when we think of it, and many of you probably think of it purely from a technology standpoint, there's so many HR, safety, emissions, back-end things that really don't have anything to do with what we're doing out on the front end in terms of what can be done with that data. So in the multimodal space, we're seeing this, let's use that last mile example. You've got long mile, mid mile, last mile. Everyone's looking for it to be more efficient. How do we shrink that supply chain? We're seeing what types of vehicles. So we're very focused on what's the right mode. I was actually, I joked about the Damon, the motorcycle company, and they were talking about motorcycles for consumers being that mid-mile option, 5 to 25 miles. I think we're going to see more multimodal. Our clients are talking about this quite a bit. In the area of intelligence, big data. I mean, big data, started out here in Silicon Valley with a lot of BI companies, and it's just grown and grown and grown. It's almost like we've got so much data, what do we do with it? That's probably one of the challenges we see with our clients. They have more data than they have time to figure out what do I do with the data. They've got data on their fuel, on braking, on the emissions of the car, absolutely everything. As I said, there's over 400 applications there's over 400 data points on a car with 140 different business uses for it. But what are we doing with that data? It depends on the client. Some of them are using it in HR to do scoring for safety. Some of them are doing it for what vehicles should we be in. We see that 5 to 10% of vehicles out there, they aren't in the right vehicles. They're bigger than they should be. They're not they aren't good for idle time, and their drivers have a lot of idle time. Their drivers do a lot of heavy braking. Well, that vehicle isn't as good for heavy braking. These are all just little nuances and changes, but maybe that means you get an extra 10,000 miles out of each set of tires. And I know that's not, no one's going to say, wow, that's magical. Well, if you have a fleet of 5,000 vehicles, getting 10,000 miles out of an extra set of tires because you took one piece of data and married it up with another piece of data is actually a pretty big savings. And the fourth one is really around efficiency, and what's driving efficiency is society and government. It was real interesting. So, I live in the Boston area, and I landed last night at San Jose. I think in the 4 to 5 minutes it took me to get the Uber, I saw more hybrid vehicles than I probably saw in the last 2 weeks in the Boston area. So just when you talk about societal trends, there are trends geographically on efficiency. There are trends with regulatory. You go over to Europe, you'll even see more. So we're seeing that there's two things, again, society, sustainability, companies that are putting that up higher on their radar, companies that are doing it from an ROI, and then regulatory. We're all seeing this is going to get legislated over time, but everyone's looking for what's the cleanest, most efficient mechanism to get from point A to point B on efficiency. So, I talked about that ecosystem. So we're, continuing to build out the ecosystem. We talk to companies literally on a daily basis. Some work, some don't. That's the one thing that's great about technology. I remember when I came out to Silicon Valley, I was working for a company, EDS, actually founded by Ross Perot, who just passed away yesterday after a great life. And when I came out here, I remember my first couple sales calls. At that point, there were 8 of us, everyone's in sales. And I couldn't get anyone even to give me the time of day, and I'd come from a Fortune 100, and I said, boy, this is going to be really hard. It's really hard when you've got these great ideas, but it might be a little bit ahead of what your prospects want. When we partnered with Cisco, we were able to dramatically accelerate our growth as a company because we went through Cisco's ecosystem, and we also got a nice investment from them. So, how do we do this? That's kind of the next question we get asked is, it all starts with exploring your idea, technology, and your company. What is it? As I said, we're pretty good thinkers. We got some pretty good ideas, but we're not having the ideas in such that you have. The next is we go to concept. We say, okay, how can we take whatever idea you've got and actually package it into some type of client pilot? After that, once we've got the pilot concept done, we then actually identify what's the right client or market. The fourth step, we'll actually launch it. And once we launch it, we'll be gaining insights. You'll be a part of that. We don't take your idea and then say, we'll call you in 90 days, we'll call you next year, we'll let you know how it goes. But we launch the pilot and then we try to gain insights. We then kind of make a go, no-go decision. What do we think? Did it work? By the way, it doesn't have to be this glorious, wonderful thing. We might be like, okay, it kind of works, but let's go target small clients. Let's go target large clients. Maybe we targeted small clients and it didn't work because it didn't have enough scale. So then we'll kind of go back through and we'll say, okay, we might go back to step 2. Do we need to have another concept? Do we have to have a different sponsor? And we'll go through, and then we'll say, what can we do to take this to scale? Are there some things we need to tweak and change? Or do we just say, hey, it's a great concept, we just weren't able to make it work with our particular clients and our prospects. So we just kind of step through this, our mobility ecosystem launchpad. Thank you for your time. Have a great time here at TechCrunch Mobility. Thank you.